So non-state actors are basically any attendee that isn't representing a government or the EU. So including intergovernmental organisations and NGOs. There's about maybe 20,000 NGOs. There's a lot that send delegates to UN climate conferences, and they're officially registered as observers in the process. So they can sit at the back of negotiations and watch what's going on, but they can't participate directly. And some negotiations are closed to observers if more than a third of governments say that they don't want a particular discussion to be watched, which is sometimes the case if negotiations are particularly kind of politically sensitive. Sometimes it's just due to logistics, like the rooms not being physically big enough and the security getting a bit heavy-handed on the doors, like bouncers in a nightclub, and kind of checking people's badges to see who can come in and who can't, because governments have pink badges and NGOs have orange badges and that kind of thing. But outside of the negotiation rooms, non-state actors can do a whole range of things. So they can lobby decision makers in between meetings. So often in these UN conferences, they're called the corridors of power for a reason, because if you kind of collar the right person, I found that just after they come out of the toilet, as they get their cup of coffee, is a perfect time because they haven't got many excuses to run away. That's my top tip for collaring decision makers outside conferences. So that kind of thing. Then they can also make interventions in particular formalized points in the negotiations. Usually in the big plenary events, but usually it's only like you can speak for 2 minutes now on behalf of all youth around the world. Good luck. And we're going to cut you off if you go over by a few seconds. Sometimes you can request to make interventions in the smaller negotiations. That's not common, but I have done that before in the negotiations on climate change education, action for climate empowerment, which were received quite well because we'd built up relationships with decision makers working on that issue. Non-state actors can also host and participate in side events like big panel events where they talk about issues that they care about. They can have exhibits where they share what their organisations are doing. They can do actions which are like mini protests or demonstrations within the conference, but there are quite tight restrictions around where they can be. You have to let security know at least 24 hours in advance and say, this is what we're going to do. This is the maximum number of people that we're going to have there. This is the level of loudness that we're going to be. Some of the like our key messages, and security can sort of stop you if you do something they weren't expecting or they don't like. And do press conferences and networking. A lot of people go to UN climate conferences and probably don't watch any negotiations. They're mainly there to network because there's this massive venue full of people from all around the world and all different sectors that are working on similar issues to you. So some people are going sort of building up these connections for good or ill, depending on their purposes and motivations, I guess. But since Copenhagen, there's been a really increased role for non-state actors because I think everyone realised that governments weren't going to achieve this on their own and needed backup. This was really strengthened in the Paris Agreement in 2015, and this kind of post-Paris era of climate governance is really trying to foster this collaborative, multi-actor, it's often called like the all hands on deck approach, with non-state actors really contributing to climate action. You see a massive increase in the role of sub-state actors, particularly cities. So networks like C40, mayors from different cities around the world coming to work together to see what they can do as well. And there's this, the UNFCCC has an action agenda that is really pulling together stuff that non-state actors can do to support and kind of go alongside what governments are doing through the negotiations.